You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Good morning. A weary Philippines wakes up to still a Category 3 storm. Typhoon Rai, Philippine name Odette, continuing to march through the islands. It's now over the Sulu Sea, south of Cuyo, and is on course to make landfall in Palawan later today. It's not going to be for a handful of hours yet. And this is the wide shot showing you the storm's progression. It is on a weakening trend still, but the latest from the JTWC still has it 125 miles per hour. They'll probably update this hour, and we imagine that the intensity will have gone down again. Although, at the moment, the indications that we're getting are suggesting that they might not lower it very much. But that is some conjecture at the moment. We're not fully sure. Back in the studio, back with a working webcam again, is myself. My name is Nathan Foy, in the studio for another hour of coverage and discussion with our team and with amongst the viewers. But I'm joined right now by David, Ian and Christopher. Now you may remember Christopher from last night talking about what was going on live near Cebu, and his signal might be very choppy, something we'll need to bear with, but we'll speak to him in a moment. Let's have a look first at the last JTWC cone. This was from earlier, expecting that the storm would remain at Category 3 status all the way through there now, so that is still going to be a big impact for northern Palawan, even though it might not look as much on satellite imagery now. Its central core is still blowing up with minus 90-degree cloud tops in some areas. And we could still see very strong winds affecting the islands. After that, it will move through the South China Sea and gradually curve northwestwards, and then really sweep northwards off the coast of Vietnam and weaken very rapidly indeed. As always, if you've got comments or questions for us during this stream, start your message with Force 13 all in text, and most likely we'll have a PAGASA update halfway through our coverage, our update here again. We are here just for the hour. This is probably going to be our last major live stream on this storm as it moves through. We expect that we'll have another update when the storm makes landfall on Palawan, certainly in video format on our YouTube channel. So David, you're with us right now. Any thoughts, any comment on the storm right now?
Just hi viewers, and just looking at the rainbow imagery of the typhoon, and a bit of white and black starting to appear, and the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, they're saying that it'll probably, well, it's expected to weaken, but it could strengthen a little bit as it heads out into the South China Sea. The system is forecast to track westward and then it will turn sharply poleward as it rounds the steering ridge as the ridge retreats eastward. They're saying, Nathan, dissipation by 120-hour mark.
Indeed.
And wave height is still 28 feet. The outflow will improve, warm sea surface temperatures, reduced vertical wind shear can work their magic, leading to a period of intensification. Now, what peak are you going for?
Well, it will probably get to high-end category 3, just as we reposition our rooms here, guys. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. So category 3 high-end is probably where it's going to end up as it moves through the South China Sea after moving through Palawan. And then it will weaken substantially. David?
Apology, Nathan. I lost your signal, and the JTWC is saying peak of 110 knots by the 36-hour mark, and around 48 hours or shortly thereafter, the system will cross the 26 isotherm and upper level winds shift to southerly, leading to dramatically increased southern shear. So they're saying
that will be, that will seal the storm's fate there. But right now you can see the core of the storm quite clearly on the zoomed out infrared imagery. The eastern side of the storm looking very bare, so areas that have received the storm in daylight now, hopefully conditions are decent there, so that people can start looking now and assessing the damage. A question about any updates on how the Tacloban area is. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, I've not seen much myself on any of these areas just yet. I imagine that Tacloban will be generally okay. Looking at the wrong link. From the little that I saw in southern Leyte, that things were quite serious, that let's say a category 3 conditions perhaps. But from what I'm seeing right now on Tacloban, I'm not seeing much in terms of damages. We do know that over 100 people took shelter, though. But there are a lot of areas that we're still waiting to really hear from. Southern Leyte in particular. I'm just going to have a look on my own monitor here. Yes, there are some images that are freshly coming out now. Some severe damage photographs. And David, you'll have to help me out here by being my go-to for the for sharing these images as I send them through to you.
All
right. But there's quite a few images coming out this morning from the southern Leyte area.
Just gotta...
Yeah, it's a bit fidgety tonight because there's only 3 of us here at the moment, but we'll be able to show some of these images shortly.
Okay, I think my screen up.
All right, let's see what we've got. And we don't want that feedback there. I just turned that off. Oh, still not got it working just yet. Hold on. And there is an image showing the scene. This is somewhere reportedly in southern Leyte. And it's quite a lot of images that were sent through. If you want to go through some of the others, you know, things like that. This was a post on Twitter just now.
What was the wind strength? Have we got any?
Probably category 4 in this area. It's looking pretty bad.
That is.
Whilst we throw it back to the PAGASA map, I'll just send some more through to you. The next images that you're going to see will be from Maasin City, which is in southern Leyte, and there is a view there showing this morning how it looks at daybreak, nearly there by the looks of things.
Not good.
And if you want to load up one of those other images from street level.
Oh my God.
So this
photos from the tornado outbreak over there in the States.
So those last two images there, that's Maasin City. The other images, I'm not sure exactly where, but somewhere in southern Leyte is where they will have been, where they will have come from. So some pictures appearing from those areas, and I'll be doing some research myself, but it's quite hard to do whilst we're on the air at the same time, but we'll see if we can get something from closer to the first landfall point. I imagine that we still haven't heard very much from that area, from Siargao Island. From the chatter that I'm seeing, is that there's no information really at all yet. If you do have any information for us that might be useful on the stream, start your message with Force 13 all in text and it will light up for us. But I'm just doing the rounds looking through some of these locations to see if there's morning images from on the ground. I don't think we've got anything from Dinagat either just yet. So all that we've seen so far is Maasin and elsewhere in southern Leyte.
I haven't cited any updated information. I haven't been following the hashtags and nothing from the local media.
Yeah, there's really very little out there.
Very slow, very dead.
Really quiet, what I'm seeing. You know, looking up things from Siargao, which obviously has Siargao City, a significant population, and it's pretty bare. There's only been about 10 tweets in the last few hours. A comment here from Nuclear Sunburn 2. Interesting name. Thank you for your support. Any word on the damage in the Cebu city or Liloan areas? I think that is. Thanks for being here reporting on the storm. Christopher has been trying to get here, has been having difficulties. So he would have a lot to say about that, I imagine. But from Cebu, I imagine we've got a lot more images that would be available. There's I mean, if you just look online, there's quite a few coming in. Let's see if we could show. Let's try and get this to your screen, David. Some imagery from Mandaue City in Cebu, and that is actually where Christopher is. These aren't his images, but it's from his location. We'll just get that on. There is an image.
The repair's going to be astronomical, dude. And someone, one of our viewers, put in the chat no electricity, so and telecommunications will be restricted. But the cleanup's going to be massive.
We'll have an update from them at some point, of course, from PAGASA, and we've got a video now, David, as well, that was posted online not long ago. If you want to load that one up. Maybe in full screen.
All right, we'll go back.
Here we go. This is a video, I believe, from Cebu as well. Oh, we've got a glitch there.
All right,
It was running well on the small screen, wasn't it? It's like that sometimes, but lots of debris along the coastal area there, as you can quite clearly see.
That doesn't like it.
Try and skip forward a bit there. Just because it shows you the other side as well, towards the buildings, which shows quite a bit of debris.
I don't want to do it. All right, okay, okay.
Oh, there's
are.
as well, yeah. So that's another viewpoint from Cebu in the last hour or two, I think, or this morning at some point. So the pattern is quite clear, and a lot of places will have had at least moderate damage to severe damage. And as a matter of fact, I'm not familiar with the area really, but I'm sure people will be able to identify a tower that has been damaged. David, if you want to show the latest image on that, which shows it most clearly about how that has been damaged, the morning image, I think is the best one to show. That image there, I'm sure that's quite identifiable wherever that is.
Yes, look at
in Cebu.
It looks like all the glass. Well, naturally,
reminiscent of what happened with that tower in was it Morgan City, Louisiana during Laura? Or was it Lake Charles? Sorry, not Morgan City, Lake Charles. There was a tower that looked quite a bit like that as well. So you could argue that maybe, well, I don't know, just drawing comparisons, possibly Category 3 conditions that struck the area. As we go back to the infrared imagery, which has these labels now because we've been using it too much. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. It will light up for us if you've got any comments or questions. Any reports on numbers injured and damage so far? I'm not sure just yet. I'll have a look. What happened to Iloilo City? Okay, I'll see if I can get some images from there as well. I'm not seeing a huge amount at the moment. Actually, yes, there are some images from Iloilo as well. So more for David to show us on the stream here. Latest from Iloilo. Maybe look at some of the others there. All very portrait images. Quite hard to discern what's going on there. Doesn't look too bad. These are apparently taken this morning. Not as bad as the other places that we've seen there.
Looks like it's on the, I think, the river. Would it be a river?
Probably by the sea.
Yeah.
And apparently there was a fatality in Iloilo City, for someone who is asking about the numbers. Obviously that is very preliminary. And I imagine that the sources for any fatalities and injuries are going to be scattered until the officials put the information together in their reports. Why are -90s still appearing? Well, it's not got much eye structure, let's say, so I guess it's going back to bursting those cloud tops because it's not really forming around an eye. This is something we typically see in weaker systems. Of course, it looks fairly weak on the face of it, but this is still a Category 3. So don't forget that when you look at the latest images there. Still a very powerful storm indeed. So
and Nathan, go on.
Just from what we hear so far, I think there's been at least 2 fatalities, but the number's probably going to be quite significantly higher than that. See if we can get some information from the officials right now. It's not loading very quickly. PAGASA, of course, due to update as well, and I think they have, yes. So Odette is now passing over the Sulu Sea between Cuyo and Cagayancillo Islands. At 7 a.m., 155 kilometers west-southwest of Iloilo City, or 90 kilometers south-southeast of Cuyo, Palawan. Currently sustained winds, according to PAGASA, 155 kilometers per hour near the center, gusting up to 235 kilometers per hour, and a central pressure of 955 millibars. They expect that it will weaken slightly and then re-strengthen after it passes Palawan, and then weaken once more for good. Now, I'm not sure if the warning graphic that we had on the screen was up to date. That I think is still from 5 a.m. Let's see if we could possibly see if it's updated to 8 a.m. yet as we reload this. And that is coming out at 8 a.m. So there we have it. That's the 8 a.m. updates, and you'll now notice that the Calayan Islands, well to the west there, are under Signal 2 warnings as well. And their map has been considerably stretched to include that, it would appear. So that's the latest map as of 8 a.m. Philippine time, showing the biggest extent of the warnings. Signal 3 for the northern half of Palawan, and still for the southernmost tip of Panay for a little while longer. Signal 2, as you can see, mostly leaving Cebu City down to Signal 1. The easternmost Visayas now going back to no warning. Not on the screen, but Batangas and Quezon and southern parts of Luzon still under Signal 1 as well. Catanduanes is out of it. Camarines Norte is out of it. And that's pretty much everything there that we can see. That's the latest from PAGASA. Now let's see if there's more comments. Is there an eye in Typhoon Rai? Well, you would imagine that it would still have one. It's still got decent structure as you take a look at it there, and you could argue that might be an eye. Nope, I think the eye is underneath the convection. It's hard to tell. I would imagine that would be the case.
I think the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre in their latest advisory said there's probably a pinhole eye, microwave eye. But
Now,
looking at the shortwave infrared, it's it looks like it's trying, there is, or trying to. The shortwave infrared. Now, what's that next group of islands?
that's Palawan.
So that's is it passing over those islands
Absolutely.
now, or
Well, In the next 6 hours, I think. Category
Next 6
3.
hours.
It will still be a Category 3 through there.
So that makes how many landfalls? And apology viewers, I'm not up on the...
dear. I think it will be number 9 next, and with the composition of those islands, it's not impossible that it could make 2 landfalls there, so it could end up being 10.
Now the other, I'm going back to a previous stream, the steering ridge for the system, and it's supposed to curve to the, west-north?
Eventually.
Once it gets into the South China Sea?
Yeah, and the closer it gets to Vietnam, the more it will shoot northwards, that's for sure.
Yeah, I haven't even had a look at the what the HWRF models say, the rainfall outlook. But the flow of information is not good.
There's not a huge amount right now, no.
Well, no, what's the time? 10:30 my time here. So about 8 o'clock Philippines? Or 7:30?
8:30 coming up to, yes.
8:30.
Just trying to get more things together. Certainly seeing a lot. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of flooding images and video in Bohol in particular.
Yes, that flooding, well, that was a key component, a storm surge. But
and then you've got Cagayan de Oro and that area, which has got huge amounts of rainfall. Probably about 4 or 5 feet deep in some places. But even from there, there's not much coming out right now. And still there's a lot of people wondering exactly what's going on in these locations. You know, people who have family and unable to get contact with anyone on the ground there. Let's see if we have any more questions, not just now. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. We're here for the hour with this latest update on the storm. To reiterate the information that just came in, bulletin number 17 is out from PAGASA, and they have updated the warning map, and you can see how it looks now. So many changes and so many areas that are changing over. It's pretty pointless for me to read them all out, but you can see quite clearly on the map depiction there the areas that have the worst warning. Signal 3 still for the northern half of Palawan, the main island. Cuyo Islands there as well, and Cagayan Shilo is very close to the center of the storm, underneath a lot of the convection right now. They'll be getting lots of rain. And the southernmost tip of Panay, Signal 3. Signal 2 still for the whole of Negros, and for the rest of Panay, for southern Mindoro. Let's see if we've got any news from the ATCF system and whether they've decided on an intensity for the storm yet. Not yet for 0Z, which is the next update cycle, and that's due any time. We're getting rumblings that they might weaken it slightly to 120 miles per hour. That remains to be seen. But sometimes we got to judge for ourselves how strong the storm looks on the satellite imagery. It's certainly got the appearance of a storm that used to be something quite phenomenal. You just see all the bands that was formerly part of its when it was all together, it's just sort of expanding outwards and losing strength as it pulls away. Indeed, some of the outermost bands there already reaching the coast of Vietnam, which is hundreds of kilometers away. Even that could deliver some significant rainfall actually underneath that. But the main part of the storm is still east of Palawan and will be moving through there fairly soon. Let me try and get a time estimate based on the latest information. Trying to get that. So it's very hard to determine how fast it's moving right now because of how difficult it is to put a center on it. But I would say in the last hour, just looking at it personally here, it's probably moved at around maybe 35 kilometers or so, and the distance from land to Palawan from a probable landfall location is still about 190 kilometers away. So at that rate, it would still be another 5 hours until landfall, really.
Nathan, I've got some new imagery. I think you should have it there on the screen.
I don't have you right now.
You haven't got me on, hang on. Hang on.
We're also joined by Armin right now as well in Manila. Any comments for us this morning? Anything that you know that we've not yet mentioned?
I think that Negros has really impacted the storm a bit.
We've not seen...
Negros is really, yeah, it's like bursting again, which hasn't been seen since it was sheared.
Okay, not seen many images at all from there yet. In fact, no images yet from that area.
I also can't contact my friends in southern Leyte and Bohol.
Bohol looks like it's had some significant flooding. There is actually some images from the island of Negros right now. Let's see which ones we'll... quite a few depicting fallen trees, generally small trees, but certainly a messy picture. Let's... consistent with not extreme winds. I'm just seeing lots of images of small trees and branches down, and just a general mess on the ground, and some minor to moderate building damage on weak buildings. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything massive right now on the island from the images that are currently coming out, and they're coming out pretty thick and fast right now. This is Force 13 Live as we continue to look at that satellite imagery. Do we have any video of the After Effect update of Negros? Can't get a hold of family there, as I just mentioned there. What I've seen so far, and it will not be indicative of everything there, but from what I've seen so far, it's not, doesn't look that major, although it is a bit of a mess. As I say, small trees down, branches, minor to moderate building damage depending on the construction quality. Can we get Christopher on the line? I think he's here again. Very important to be able to hear from you if we can. Christopher?
Hello, Nathan. How do you hear me?
We'll try. Go ahead.
All right. So it's um, it's a bit of a catastrophe, really. As soon as sunrise came out, I went out to see essentially just how bad the damage was from this storm where I live, essentially, and there have been a few downed trees. At one point, the tree that actually leads to the gate of this townhouse where I live in ended up partially collapsing onto the gate itself. That has now been cleared. They've worked on it for about 2 hours, and it has been mostly cleared. There's just a lot of vegetation left on that side. And on the opposite end of where I am, a tree has actually collapsed onto the fence, which separates the townhouse where I am in and some other area which I'm not entirely sure of at the moment. But other than that, the sheer amount of these galvanized sheets of metal that was collected as soon as everyone has started to look and inspect for the damages. There is a lot that has fallen off from the roofs around the area here, and outside of that, still more vegetation falling off from trees and such, causing some blockages on the drains around here. And other than outside of that, not some actually. Hold on. A part of a tree has actually also collapsed on the main road here in H. Avellana Street. So there has been some cars and motorists that have been going onto the other side of the lane just to avoid that. And just from the distance of where I am, I hear a chainsaw being used, which I assume was currently being used to chop down a fallen tree. I don't have a visual on it, but I do hear it, and it's they've been on it for about a good 30 minutes already. So clearly a lot of trees, really mainly, have fallen around here. And outside of that, there was one car that got hit with one of the galvanized sheets that I mentioned, but the car is still functional. So at least that on that end, that car was okay. The strange thing here that I want to note is that the volume of traffic is almost, well, not almost normal, but it is below normal, which is strange because usually when storms power close to the strength of Odette or Rai hit either nearby or a direct hit to the city, usually the traffic just comes to a complete halt the next day. But there have been cars passing by here in Mandaue City, going to wherever they need to be. So either they're just going to work immediately today, or they're just trying to get some necessities, because we are, after all, still in the middle of a pandemic. So the situations like that would still obviously require them to go out. So really, I assume this is just most of the usual things that you've been seeing online as well, with trees falling and a lot of um, just a lot of things, really. There's just really no words to describe the intensity of what has happened and just the sheer damage that it has left now that it's daytime and we see essentially everything that has been left by the storm. Nathan?
Yeah. And how strong do you reckon the storm might have been in your area? What was your feeling?
Let's see. I can't exactly describe it in maybe the speed of the wind, but
Sure.
it was really strong. I at some point nearly got blown away by the wind. Actually, bit of a bad positioning on my part while I was trying to look
Oh, we were doing
for
so well.
trying to look out for the situation at the time. How's it now?
Sorry, we just lost your signal for a moment, though. We were doing so well, is what I was commenting on. But Christopher,
All right. But yeah,
thank you very much for your input throughout this storm, and
mhm.
being right in the middle of it. Really, is quite something. I don't suppose you've heard anything about flooding in your area.
Well, where I am, H. Avellana Street is actually right next to the Butuanan River, but we are in an elevated position. So the bridge would be the best place to check the Butuanan River, but I am not in a position to be there at the moment, obviously, because there have been some um, local government authorities trying to make sure that nobody is outside of their houses or property in this case in the middle of the storm. So I'm not quite sure, obviously, how the river itself is. But for where I am, flooding wasn't much of an issue, but certainly to areas that were next to the river itself. Would have certainly experienced flooding and would have been told to evacuate before the storm had even come close to the city itself, Nathan.
Thank you for that, Christopher. That was one of our correspondents in Mandaue, which is on Cebu, near Cebu City, which would have been impacted most likely with typhoon conditions at the very minimum. I sent some more images over to David. These are pictures from Bohol showing the extent of flooding here. I'm not sure exactly where on the island, but from what I'm garnering really is that a lot of locations are looking like this on Bohol. Well, it said there Lobok, which I'm not sure where that is.
It's not good.
But you can see quite clearly those images.
And Nathan, one of the earlier images that high-wise or
Yes.
and with autoglass, baseline complex 1 and 2 took a hit, and major repairs needed. And I wouldn't like to be in a building full of glass because, but the flooding's bad, and people on the roofs.
Yeah, Bohol in particular is what I'm seeing for that flooding, as well as Cagayan de Oro. We saw that that video earlier of was it a 1-month-old baby being rescued that was in a little tub.
Yes, a couple of the Coast Guard were up to their neck in flood water, and baby in the tub with the umbrella.
Latest satellite imagery, I must point out, is showing an explosion in -90-degree cloud tops. That's pretty insane looking at it right now. My goodness, it covers an area. It's 35 kilometers wide north to south, this -90 area, this yellow zone. This is pretty staggering. I'm going to try and find some imagery that will, well, you won't be able to see it on your screen, but I'm just going to hunt for some imagery at my end to see if we can get a better temperature indication on that. Those are some crazy high cloud tops, which would appear to be on the southern side of the eye. Latest image would suggest that the highest cloud tops there in that are probably around -90, 95, 96. Very high cloud tops. Still a lot of energy in this storm. So right now, to give you a recap of its position, again, it's quite hard to get a full handle on the position, but the storm is something like 160 kilometers away from the closest point on Palawan, but it will have to jog north slightly if it was to make landfall there. If it continued to move at due west, we'd be looking at landfall in about 185 kilometers.
Nathan, for our viewers, I am retweeting some of the graphic images from the Philippines out via our main Twitter account, the Force 13. But a lot of structural damage, the homes, and
it could be a while before we see anything out of those islands that were first hit. I'm just checking again. Nothing at all out of Siargao Island. Nothing really either from Dinagat either.
And another item, Nathan, Signal 2 remains in force.
Yep, for lots of locations. We'll show you that again in just a moment. I'm just still looking for any new images to show you, but nothing at this point. Just that, I mean, looking at damage pictures in Maasin City, probably reminiscent of category 3 conditions that would have been received there. Defoliation en masse, really, of the trees there. Lots of roofs torn up. I don't see any buildings that have been completely obliterated. Looks like some fronts of buildings have been caved in as well in places around there. So southern Leyte would appear to have borne the brunt of what we can see so far, but of course Dinagat and Siargao will have been worse. Not much coming out of Mindanao either. We know that the flooding is severe. Bohol, what we've seen so far is flooding, severe. I've not seen much in terms of wind. Cebu, we've seen that the wind damage on that tower and on the ground as well. Negros, so far we've seen we haven't seen major damage, but you could say moderate damage, small trees and branches. I haven't seen any building damage, but that's not to say that it hasn't happened, because really there's only a handful of sources that have been putting out images so far, and the day's still pretty early on. So yes, going back to the PAGASA map, those are the latest warnings for those who are just checking in. Signal 2 still remains in effect for the western part of Cebu, the whole island of Negros, most of Panay, except the southern part, which is still under Signal 3, Cuyo Island, Signal 3, northern half of Palawan, Signal 3, southern half lower, and even way out west the Calayan Islands, which are well off the coast of Palawan and well out to sea. Signal 2 there as well. There's really not been any more information that's come in. But David, I just want you to bring it back to the maybe back to the first images that I sent through from southern Leyte and Maasin, just to show those areas again. Maybe the one in downtown there just below. Well, there's that one as well. Hold on a moment. So these are some of the images from southern Leyte. All of those trees in the background, I assume that's this morning. Not sure on the exact location there. But just scroll down a little bit more, David, to the next set. Well, yep, there's that too, but those are the images from downtown Maasin. Again, those the front of that building over there, you can see straight in.
Gone.
So this kind of thing would suggest to me probably category 3 conditions occurred here, widespread.
And at least the people in the picture are wearing shoes, which is good.
Couldn't imagine not doing that with all of the debris scattered across the ground.
Yes.
But if you do have reports on the ground, might be a long shot. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. You might know things that we don't. And we'd love to hear from you. We've only got a few more minutes to run here. But we're absolutely here to help wherever possible. How does it compare to other storms? Well, of course we can touch on that as we did in previous live streams. So when we're talking about record setters, this is the strongest storm to make landfall on Siargao Island in history, in recorded history. The second strongest was Emma in 1952, which made a category 3 landfall on the island. For Dinagat, Mike made landfall on the island, so this storm is probably tied with that, maybe slightly stronger, we're not sure yet. For southern Leyte, it could well be for the southernmost part of Leyte, Maasin region, that it may well have been the strongest impact for the city. Louise will have come close back in 1964. It was a category 4 just south of there. I couldn't quite figure out whether this storm will have had more of an impact or not. But for places like Negros, a category 4 landfall officially, probably a category 3 though in reality, still would make it the furthest south major landfall on the island, and only the second major landfall on the island anyway in named storm history, the other one being Mike, although a typhoon in 1912 possibly holds records for Cebu, Negros and Panay. Very powerful typhoon that moved through the Visayas in November of that year. And then looking towards Palawan, it's trending towards a category 3 landfall there, and for the northern half of Palawan, and I assume the whole island, there hasn't ever been a typhoon that's made landfall there stronger than a category 1. A little caveat to that is that Mike passed just north of there as a category 2. It just missed making an actual landfall. So more records may tumble on Palawan. Even Bopa was only a category 1 by that point when it struck Palawan. Let's see if we have any more questions. Taylor says first category 4 without an eye, question mark. Well, it certainly has an eye and had an eye all along. You will never get a category 4 without an eye. We can, that's just one of the scientific absolutes. An eye has to form really for it to get to category 1, never mind category 4. It's just a matter of whether we can see it or not on the satellite imagery. As if we had a properly functioning radar system, then you would see quite clearly that it would have an eye. But I think we've delivered all of the information that we can at this point. There's nothing else that's coming to light just now, and thank you once again, Jason, for your support. And we do our best. Having said that, this will probably be our final live stream on the typhoon. But we will surely have someone to do a video update on the storm when it makes landfall in Palawan with an update. More questions. When will Typhoon Rai become a tropical storm? Could be quite a while yet. Could still be another 4 days before it loses typhoon status, and that would be off the coast of Vietnam. Armin, I think you've got an image, some imagery for us. More images on the ground.
Maasin, where Typhoon Rai struck. It struck Padre Burgos, but that's north of Padre Burgos. They got the northern eye wall.
Now it's difficult for me to describe because when it struck southernmost Leyte, we weren't actually on the air. We were taking a rest. So, do we know, did the eye move over Maasin or Padre Burgos?
Yeah, it moved over Padre Burgos.
So it went south of Maasin, then onto Bohol, yes. So moved due west through there. Here's some damaged photos that we're looking at on the screen. And again, these images seem pretty reminiscent to me of Category 3 conditions.
Oh, look at those trees.
That's possibly stronger there, depending on the construction of the buildings. It may have just been an exposed location, but a large amount of damage there. Lots of images. So that was another selection of images that we were going through on that slideshow as we take a look back at the latest Signal 3 warnings which remain in effect for northern Palawan and for the southernmost tip of Panay. How high are the cloud tops? Another question that's come in, a popular one right now. Around minus 95 degrees Celsius. Really large area of minus 90 degree cloud tops. Do we have any idea on the number of power outages in the Philippines right now? I imagine it's quite a lot. Certainly got no numbers though, I'm afraid. And a comment that the models are getting closer to Vietnam, which may, that's something to consider. Vietnam's certainly not out of this as we move forward. And the closest point to land we expect on the JTWC cone there will be in just 2.5 days time, probably. During the evening of Sunday is what we're currently looking at. But at this juncture, we've pretty much reached the end of our hour. There's been a lot to go over and large amounts of damage becoming clearer with time here. But we're going to call it a day now from Force 13 HQ. It's been a big storm event, that's for sure. It's off to Palawan next, and we expect landfall there will probably occur in around 4 hours. Someone on our team will have a video update when that happens. But from here at Force 13 HQ and from my team, it's not been a pleasure, but it's we've been here for quite a long time. We've invested a lot into this as well. We feel very passionately about what's been going on the ground too. A big event that's been unfolding, and one that will be remembered for quite a while for those areas that have been most severely affected. More updates on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to Force 13, and you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Search Force 13 all in text. You can Also join our Discord server for live chat with other weather watchers from around the world, over 3,000 actually, and several in the Philippines, discord.gg/force13. From myself, Nathan Foy, in the studio, and from our team here, it's a good night from us, and well, what else can we say? Here's hoping for the best for those who will now be recovering after this storm, and still those who are ahead of it. Stay safe and hunker down in Palawan.